welcome back to another financially unstable episode of the Film Alchemist podcast, the show where we take the movie we love, break it apart, to find out what gives it its magic. I'm your host, Josh Griffey, joined as always by my friend, co-host, and guy who should have just dug holes,
Alex Dantino.
All right, before we delight Daddy, a little bit of business. Guys, it's official. We're on Patreon. That's right, patreon.com/Film Alchemist Pod. The best way to support the show, the best way to make the show exactly what you want and deserve. For as little as $1 a month, you can join our community over there. Every dollar helps and means the world to us, we assure you. So even $1 a month, get in, see what we're working on. As you climb the official Highlander tier ranking system, you gain access to our exclusive library of Patreon episodes. You can vote on what episodes you want to be recorded in the future. We got miniseries. We got full-length feature commentaries. You can even pick your own double feature. All kinds of fun stuff we're working on over there. We try to put a lot of effort into that to make sure it's worth your guys' time and support. So again, that's patreon.com/Film Alchemist Pod. If you can and you'd be so kind, we would appreciate it. For those of you who already do, thank you. For those who are about to, thank you as well. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel, Film Alchemist. The email is filmalchemistpod@gmail.com. We're on all the socials you're on. We're easy to get a hold of, so reach on out. And another thing you can do that's free, easy, simple, help the show, besides sharing all of our stuff on your socials, leave us rating and reviews wherever you find the show and everywhere you find the show. All right. Back to business. Handcuffed.
Financial business.
Ball gagged. On hands and knees waiting for Daddy's mercy or punishment.
I hate this analogy.
Daddy said no safe words. But instead, we're with our chained up bodies, we're nuzzling a gift towards Daddy Dandino's feet. As this month we delight Dandino. Wow. The month of his birth.
I think what's weird is this is more something that would work for your birthday, but I'll take it. It's fine.
This is just how you think I get down? I'm trying to paint a picture for you, motherfucker.
You've always been more the whips and chains type for sure.
Don't let the mustache fool you.
Oh, it's fools.
I did read a tweet the other day that said the sluttiest thing a boy can do is have a mustache. And I did kind of go, nice. Nice. Neither here nor there.
Nice.
Nice. Nailing it. So yeah, Daddy, here's your gift.
Dear God.
So we push forth to your feet, right? I talked to your mother, your wife, and we came up with a list of movies.
I love the list so far.
Your wife, this was one of her, she gave me really well thought out, emotional, sentimental movies about the two of you, right?
Yep.
But she said she knew this was one of your comfort movies. I know you've talked about this and Draft Day are your go-to flying movies, right? Stuff like that.
Not this one.
Oh, sorry. Daddy, don't punish me, sorry. I'm going to kick it over to you.
Sure.
So you can explain why, for the month of birthday gifts, you chose Margin Call.
Yeah. So, I don't know why, but around 2015 or something like that, I really decided, I just started watching a lot of financial thrillers. I don't know why. I'm not rich and I have no interest in, I like money. I know how to spend money. I know how to save it sometimes. But something about the housing crash in 2008, I don't know if it's because I have some personal connection to that. My parents had to go through a short sale on their house because the lenders were just dicks. They weren't upside down on their mortgage. They were just trying to refinance like normal people, and they just got screwed over by the bank. So I don't know if maybe that has something to do with it. I think just overall, the unknowable nature of the stock market and this thing that happened to us is so interesting. So for me, there are 3 movies that you can watch to really start to understand. Now, the one that's the most popular is probably The Big Short, which almost, I think, won Oscars. I don't remember. Definitely got nominated a bunch. The second one is an HBO movie called Too Big to Fail, which is based on a book. It's about the actual things that were happening to people like Hank Paulson and Ben Bernanke, the people who were actually in ground zero of all this shit happening. As the investment bank started collapsing. Margin Call is a fictional movie based on most of the true events that are based on like the inception of the truer events. So basically, what I liked about Margin Call is, for one, J.C. Shandor's first movie. This was his first one out the fucking gate.
Yeah.
Written and directed. Wrote and directed it, got an Academy Award nomination for Best Original Screenplay. So, really tight screenplay. I like the pace of this movie, and I think something that you brought up, which I think is interesting, it runs in diametric opposition of the other movies about the financial crisis, and is much more about like a single day of how fucked up this whole thing got.
Yeah.
And on top of that, it's just a fucking stacked cast, man. I mean,
Yeah.
holy shit.
It was interesting because I'd seen the other two, right? I think I thought this one was too big to fail.
Right.
And I was expecting, when I watch these kind of movies, right, I'm expecting fire and brimstone, like the Chicken Little thing, the sky's falling.
Yeah, of course. That makes sense.
Or like the frat boy mentality, right? The fucking Wolf of Wall Street, or even
Totally.
Greed is Good, Gordon Gecko, right? I have my ideas.
Yeah.
I was so struck by the somberness of this film. This film is still. This film is, I don't want to say stagnant because that implies that it's not good, right?
Yeah.
It really just makes the audience wallow in this.
Yeah.
And it kind of pairs with this two-pronged attack of, one, there's no speeding through. There's no one screaming. This is the I'm being killed by the fucking bulldozer in Austin Powers, right? No,
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
it takes forever. And then also the fact that they fucking refuse to give us information. So like we have 8 characters who say it to me in plain English. I don't read those things. And they just keep refusing to say anything past, we bundled these things, that are high leverage. We keep, whatever the jargon is, right? We keep them on the books too long, whatever.
Right.
They're outside of the models and we're fucked.
Yeah.
Like if this goes bad a couple more times and we get caught, we're negative more than the total valuation of the company.
Right.
So this feels like it's going, like when he starts calling, right? They start off with everyone getting laid off, and then he's calling his boss back from this bar, and you're like, oh shit, here we go.
Yeah.
And it just never fucking ramps up. And it just had this this slow, crushing dread.
Yeah. I think that's what makes the movie interesting, is it's written and paced like a thriller almost, with no, like a slow burn thriller. Like, that's the best way I can put it. And it took me a couple of, the first time I saw this, I thought that it was because it was poorly written. Just this aspect. So it's funny you bring up the aspect of, people not knowing what they're talking, people not constantly having to ask, can you say it in plain English? First few times I watched this, I was like, is this because, no, J.C. Chandor's father is an actual investment banker. So I'm like, is this because he didn't want to actually have to ask his dad how this works? Or because he just doesn't know? Which, either one is fine.
Also, most of us don't.
Most of us don't. I think that's another. Now, that's to me the key element. When I started watching it with this frame of this part of it being satirical almost, the movie becomes A, much easier to digest, and B, all that more terrifying because these people actually exist.
Oh, yeah.
The point of these people continuously, the only person who knows what's going on is the one who got fired, which is our friend, the Tooch.
The Tooch got loosed.
The Tooch got loose, and he's back in the mix. So they fire Stanley Tucci's character at the very end. It's sort of the precipice of the movie is Stanley Tucci's character gets fired while he's working on these volatility models that basically are about to say, dude, the entire company could possibly go under if these trades go bad. So the bit is every single person except for the people who actually do the trade modeling don't understand what they are asking. So everyone at the top, from fucking Jeremy Irons, which we'll get to. Jeremy Irons, Kevin Spacey's character, Paul Bettany, Simon Baker, Demi Moore, who is the risk assessment analyst, the president of the risk assessment portion of the firm. All of them. Well, Demi Moore, I guess she gets it. But Asif Mandi, who plays the company's lawyer, everybody seems to not understand and keeps having to ask, can you explain it to me in English? So all these people that we think are in charge of the financial system, where we think are in charge of these things, have absolutely no fucking idea what's going on. And that, I think, once I started watching it with that lens, it became a much more terrifying movie, but also that much more thrilling as you go deeper into the film.
Well, yeah, it's not a question of like Armageddon is oh fuck, there's an asteroid coming, we got to stop it.
Right.
This is an asteroid of a different nature, right? This is going to blow a hole in our society as we know it. And this is not a how do we fix this monster we've loosed. This is you know what we got to do? We got to get out there and sell torches real quick.
Yeah.
And so you're watching these people essentially like imagine the start of the first scene of Armageddon is someone with a big ass slingshot shooting that thing at our planet. That's what this is. And we're watching all these characters start to find out about it. And through all of these tricks and trying to cover their own asses, we get to the top and the decision's just made. There's no music. The dance
basically,
is over.
Yeah. The decision being like that scene in the movie is, again, and this covers like maybe 10 minutes of the film, but that 10 minutes alone is so terrifying because you realize there's no way that this conversation didn't take place at least twice throughout the entire financial crisis, which was literally people sitting in a room saying, okay, we have caused a huge problem. Mm-hmm. There is no way to fix it. The only thing we know better to do is to infect the entire system.
Yeah.
Like it is literally a virus. It's literally a coronavirus looking out and be like, let's just do this thing. Like that's the most terrifying thing is everyone just being like, let's get it done.
Well, there are even these moments, right? Because once you're in the building, it has that basic problem about movies about people with money where you're like, good, fuck all of them.
Yeah.
The problem with this movie is that if you guys sell off and blow, this company apart and this society apart and Wall Street apart, you get a bonus. So all these people are going to walk away with millions for being the fucking Jason Voorhees of Wall Street, right?
Right.
And so you see that there are these small scenes, right, where like Zachary Quinto and what's his name? You are in the fucking cab.
Penn Badgley.
Yeah, and Penn Badgley is always just like, how much do you think that guy makes a year? And then Zachary Quinto is like, do you
hear yourself when you talk?
Not only that, but he's just like, these people don't know what's coming.
Yeah.
Like,
that scene in the car, yeah.
Yeah, it's the opposite of Don't Look Up, right? Where if Leonardo DiCaprio and Jennifer Lawrence's characters just go, shh.
Yeah.
Like, we'll build our own bunker and hide. And there is this, like, they're walking through. There's one scene where Demi Moore and the other guy,
Simon Baker.
Yeah, Simon Baker, they're talking over a cleaning lady.
Yeah.
Trying to cover their asses, not realizing that the people that the lady and the people like her that they're talking over, right? Working normal people are just going to get eviscerated. They're going to
get fucked. Absolutely.
And they're worried about who's going down and this and that. They're all walking out of there with millions. Yeah. They're all getting paid for this crime and this destruction of our fucking normal lives.
That scene today particularly hit me because again, like this is why I like coming back to this. Yeah, it is like one of those comfort movies I like watching because like it's quiet and also like I've watched enough now where I can kind of follow it. But the other thing is, like I keep picking up these other smaller bits in the movie, and that one is one that I picked up really recently. Is like these people think that their problems are so much bigger than this woman who's cleaning this building, and the problem is that literally they are sitting in the elevator with the person they are going to fuck over, thinking that they're not fuck overable.
Well, there's even the moment when Quinto asked him, "Hey, have you talked to your son?" He's like, "What? No." And he's like, about all this that's coming. Does he know what's about to happen? He seemed like a good guy.
Yeah.
And Kevin Spacey has a moment of pause, and he's like, normally I do think about young people all the time. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay. Actually, before we do have to point out the
elephant in the room.
The little rapey elephant in the room. Did you I've not sought out Kevin Spacey movies at all.
No. I honestly don't know if I'd seen him in anything since it happened.
I don't think I have either.
No, that's not true, because I did watch Glenn Ross, and I think because he's getting abused the whole movie, it was fine.
It's okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
This one, this movie has an enormous fucking flaw. It's that the lens of the protagonist cannot exist in this movie. Because
Interesting.
Zachary Quinto seems to be the guy they're going to use as a, why don't you people understand what I'm saying? By the end, he just easily gets co-opted. They're like, you're a rocket scientist.
Oh yeah, no,
you
he's
can
part.
help
He
us make
becomes part of the system. Yeah.
So they try to foist this off on Kevin Spacey. And so by the end, when we watch Kevin Spacey, which is already cringe, and we see him trying to do this false nobility shit,
yeah,
it's so insufferable. And I don't think the movie is trying to make us sympathize with this man,
right,
in any way. I think they're showing us a man who's grasping at straws, trying to rewrite history, as it were. But that part, that the twofold attack of knowing his real history and watching him try to be like, hey, our talents weren't wasted, right? We did some good in this. It's like, fuck you.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
don't go dig a hole in your ex-wife's front yard, you fucking cock.
Yeah,
like,
the harder thing was, like, today watching it, knowing all this shit about Kevin Spacey, and, like, because the first time you see Kevin Spacey in the movie, he's crying because he has to, like, they basically
his dog is dying.
They have to put his dog down. Yeah. And he, like, again, in 2011 was when the movie came out, like, very different time. We were not all thinking Kevin Spacey was a gigantic creep at that point. He was just an actor who was in a lot of movies. And I realize watching it today, my lens did change a lot of, like, I don't feel bad for Kevin Spacey's character right now.
You know what it is, too? Is he was such a piece of shit about all of it.
Yeah.
Like, he made those weird videos in character as President Frank and shit. So he's so extra creepy. I mean, doing the crimes themselves are plenty creepy enough.
Right.
But it is weird because I think it's one of those, you have to figure out if you're a person that can separate art and artist. Because when you really start digging in, it is hard to find any works of art that some piece of shit is not profiting off.
No, I agree.
Sadly, especially the further you go back. So I feel like I'm normally able to do that, right? And I'm not saying one way's right or wrong.
No, I agree.
If a movie disgusts you because of someone's behavior, don't watch it. Like, I get it. I normally can just watch it as a story or a piece. It did fucking bother me today.
Same. I actually, as far as protagonist, like, because I do think, like, by the end you realize Zachary Quinto is going to be part of the problem. Like, there is this, like, shifting protagonist. Like, it's fun to watch it because it is, like, you're trying to find the person you're going to root for. Or at least, like, find the person that's going to make sense. And what's interesting is, like, throughout the movie that shifts constantly. Like, at first it's Zachary Quinto because he's the one who's like, guys, this is bad. Like, we got to fix this. We got to figure this out.
Seems like a whistleblower savior. Yeah.
Right. For a lot of, and I don't know about you, but, like, for a big chunk of the movie, it is Paul Bettany for me because he's just an honest, like, he's just an honest Wall Street asshole. He's like when they ask him how much money, he's like, is it true you made $2.5 million last year? He goes, yeah, sure, why not? And he, like, literally sums it up. And you're like, this is a guy who understands what's going on. Like, he knows that it's, like, bullshit. And he even says while they're on the roof, he's like, they're going to make us sell it. You watch. Yeah. Like, you don't think it's possible? They'll do it.
But isn't hiding behind any...
No,
like, watching
there's no
Kevin
pretense.
Spacey pretend he cares about these people
yeah.
and, like, any of it, like, he has any dignity by the end of that movie. He's a fucking hatchet man.
Yeah.
He's a piece of shit.
Paul Bettany is
bad
just
guy.
Honest.
Yeah, they're all piece of shit bad characters, right? They're all really bad. Two of them are brutally honest. And it's Paul Bettany and Jeremy Irons.
Yes.
And
Jeremy Irons can afford to be honest.
Almost can't fucking fault them because at least they know what game they're in. The rest of them do too, but they try to cover it up in whatever.
There tries to be this, like, I mean, even, like, Stanley Tucci's character by the end, like, he is the
fact he didn't run out and tell other people, he's not. Right. He's
like this sacrificial lamb, but he also had just been walking around all night. Comes back and makes whatever the
he was just
insane
getting
sum
drunk,
of money
probably
is.
At a brothel, like whatever. Yeah. He was not out saving our economy before they could dig the hatchet.
Whatever, like the absurd number was, he
have.
was getting paid hourly. Like because he sits in that
176,000 something.
Yeah. What like this absurd number? He's like sits there and he's talking with Demi Moore's character, who's like, in my opinion, Demi Moore's character might be one of the worst ones because you're like,
they all start getting paid and they all start collapsing,
and like one of my favorite. Like Jeremy,
you crying in the toilet. I'm like, you're the biggest piece of shit.
Yeah, Penn Badgley crying in the toilet. I'm like, dude, come on.
You don't care. You've been here for
fine.
like a year.
You'll be fine. You're gonna wind up with $1 million walking out the door.
You're gonna learn how to rebind a book and build a fucking, terrarium for the women you capture. You piece of shit. No,
This is actually the prequel to You. That's what I found out.
It would add up. He's like, call me Joe. I really like Molière. Molière really pumps my nads. That's it. But no, fuck that guy too. But this I like, because Jeremy Irons to me is the character that I latched onto the most.
Yeah,
because I like him coming in and just fucking around. Right, we're gonna be holding the biggest, smelliest bag of excrement ever. Right.
Yeah.
His thing at the end when the whole hatchet job's going, they're selling. People are still buying, which is insane. And Kevin Spacey's like, they're letting people go. And he fucking Pac-Man's number munches his way up the stairs.
Right.
And he goes to the room and he's just eating and drinking a paper in this peaceful room high above the fucking city. And he starts laying into him, right? And he's just... Jeremy Irons like, I'm feeling better about this thing. They say they're bringing in Zachary Quinto because there's going to be money to make. But what he says is... he's just, Sam's like trying to make some bullshit. He's like, this is what you've done for 40 years. Yeah. It's all just money. It's all made up. It's all this, like, we do the same thing over and over. We can't help ourselves. And when he starts summing that up, right, money is this fucking fake thing so we don't have to kill each other to eat. Right? And like, another thing he always says, right, the percentages never change. There might be more of us.
Yeah.
The same percentage of winners, losers, whatever. And so he just keeps laying these fucking truisms down, and people just can't, like Kevin Spacey, like, not because of your speech, because I need money. I'm like, yeah, that's noble. Like, way to take a stand now, you fucking flaccid little noodle. You know what I mean? Like, what a gross little fucking guy he is. But it's kind of the same thing as Paul Bettany, right? Because they're kind of like the chaos and the order version of the same argument.
Yeah.
When he's like, everyone gets their fucking big house they don't pay for because we put our hand on the scale.
Right.
If we don't, and you take us out and make us the bad guys, I love that line he says where the world gets really fucking fair really fucking fast.
Yeah.
And no one wants that. And it is this kind of, we as the audience have to confront the fact that we have created this monster too.
Yeah.
So
part of this.
we're sitting under the weight of this dreadful inevitability as well.
Like,
and we're letting them do it again right now.
Right now,
it's always happening. They always are fucking over
always
there
repeating
cheating
itself.
And swindling.
I will say,
sucks, dude.
Two of my favorite Jeremy Irons, like Jeremy Irons is like, so Jeremy Irons shows up like halfway through this movie and then just fucking takes it home. Mm-hmm. But there's two moments that he always has that I'm just like, God, dude, what is that? What is it like to be that powerful in a room? Not even as an actor, but like to be that version of power, which is. The first time is when they're at the end of the first like boardroom speech where basically he gives so we may survive in that very terrifying Jeremy Irons thing, and he's like he asks where Stanley Tucci's character is, and they're like we don't know, we can't find him. And he looks up, he goes Carmelo, and he's like have Eric Dale back here by 7:30. It's done. You're like, God damn, what is it like to have a Carmelo in your life?
Yeah, right. I've just got a former Dantini. That's all I've got.
I know. Poor you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. It's just. But
the other
Irons comes in and presents this fucking boogeyman, right? All these people are quaking, and he's just the guy who says, "Yep, this fucking sucks.
We're doing this.
We'll be
Sorry.
fine."
Yeah.
None of it's gonna matter for him.
The other one though is when he goes in basically so. And again, this is something they bring up in the other, like, Too Big to Fail particularly, which is, like, you have to fire people. Because, again, I was talking to my wife about this
to feed
today.
the board, yeah.
I was talking to my wife about this today. Like, that's what the like financial system's based on, is like the trust that we all have. They're like, oh, those fucking rich people know exactly what they're doing with all my money and their money. They don't.
Fucking
but like
absolute cocks, a lot
the
of them.
concept of the market is based on trust. So like what you have to do is, yeah, you like to show that you are responsible. You fire somebody who's like a sacrificial lamb, essentially. So he goes into Demi Moore's character's office, and it's between like her and Simon Baker. And she's like, and she tries to like weasel her way out of it by saying like, I was told very clearly that I would not be held responsible for me doing these things. And it's like this perfectly calculated beat. And again, this is the part that's like the thriller of it all. Is this perfectly calculated beat, and he just says, I would really appreciate if you didn't fight me on this. Mm-hmm. Like, and it's because it's Jeremy Irons, there's this level of terror to it that it's like, he could ruin your entire life. Like,
it's
just by
even more simple than that, right? Is he just said you can take a moral stand that you don't believe in, right? Because every one of these people, their financial careers are over.
For sure.
And so what he's saying is you can be fed to the machine, right? The street will eat you. The street is paved in your blood. But you can get a big-ass fucking check on your way out. So how much is your moral when Kevin Spacey's in that bathroom pretending to have an existential crisis, more because he knows this is the last score and he won't be able to keep cheating people for much longer, not because he doesn't want to do it.
But because he's really a creep in real life.
Yeah, he offers him a big-ass bonus check.
Yep.
And he's just like, I'm with the firm. I'm like, all right, stop making these little stands. And it is funny. This is one of the very few movies where I feel like most of the Wall Street and trader people are trying to lie to themselves and pretend they're not fucking modern day pirates.
Absolutely,
right? And you talk about this trust, and I think we've never had less trust in financial institutions, government institutions.
Absolutely.
Like the pillars of our society, trust-wise, are crumbling all around us.
Yeah.
And movies like this are like the nightmares of what we all think is happening all the time.
Totally.
Hopefully not, or our society would probably not exist. But that's what we think. This is what I think. Every time I imagine a Wall Street tower, I just imagine a bunch of shitbags in, like Patrick Bateman's.
Yeah, a lot of
planning
Patrick
on
Bateman's.
Destroying the society so they can fucking have better face mask.
No, I don't disagree. I mean, like, I think that's what the movie does so well is it doesn't shy away from the fact that these people, like, nobody is redeemable. Like, no one's doing anything out of the kindness of their heart. They're fucking selfish like the rest of us. And that...
They get that meeting, 93%, you get this. And you see them all being like, well,
all right, I guess, like, yeah, they're all sitting there like, well, I guess I won't be a finance guy anymore, but I will walk out of here with $2 fucking million.
Yeah, I'll take my $3 million to the Midwest and cry on the highest thread count pillow. That's
that other part, that boardroom scene. Like, I think that's maybe one of the, like, in modern cinema, like, maybe one of the finest, like, just, like, moments in a movie. That entire boardroom scene is structured so well. They act the shit out of it. And again, it's also one of these movies that absolutely could be a play, and yet structurally does a good job of not doing that thing that play movies do a lot of the time, because it takes place essentially in one location, like without fail. Yeah. But it does a good job of keeping things moving without being overly raw with dialogue. Like, it's dialogue heavy, but I don't think it's like overly dialogued. But the thing that makes it thrilling is like that sort of space in between a lot of these moments is you're just like, nobody knows the answers. Like, it's terrifying that no one knows the answers, or they do. And they have these like almost blow ups. Like the first time we meet Simon Baker's character and he walks out, and you find out later it's because he called Jeremy Irons. He walks out and Kevin Spacey like quietly looks at Demi Moore's like, I told you about this. I warned you last year about this. And they're trying to get into it, and he walks right back, and you're like, this is like the terrifying thing about corporate America, is that no one's willing to tell the truth.
They like, all cheat and steal, and then
the
now
truth
they're
is
like,
so
oh
terrifying.
Shit, we got caught.
Yeah.
And this is one of those, like, people should have gone to jail. I don't think hardly anyone did.
One guy went to jail.
Yeah, people should have been like every character in this movie except for you, Spock, and that's it, should go to jail forever.
Absolutely.
Like, throw the key. Like, Jeremy Irons' character should be in. He committed murder. He killed the market for years.
Yeah.
he should have gone to jail. Kevin Spacey should be in jail. Well, in real life too.
But
every one of these fucking characters should be behind bars.
But and like they try to like in that boardroom meeting too, like after he finally tells them like Kevin Spacey's like, you're going to ruin the market for years. Like this is a bad idea. You are deliberately poisoning the market. And he's like, I understand.
Yeah.
And then,
the first one out the door isn't panic. That's what he says.
Yeah. Well, that's what he says. So his like the big block in the speech is like, what did I tell you the first time you walked in my office? Mm-hmm. Like, there are 3 ways to make money in this business: lie, be smarter, or be first. And like he's like, or cheat, be smarter, or be first. He's like, no, I don't cheat. And even though I like to think we have a lot of pretty smart people in this building, it's a whole hell of a lot easier to just be first.
Also, the entire movie's about how they cheated, but neither here nor there.
Right, of course. You're like, okay, well, you're definitely a cheater, but sure, whatever you say.
So you're good at all 3 of these things is what you're saying. You're a fucking black belt. You're the father, son, and fuck you spirit of this business model. Yes.
Upside down crucifix, well done.
Hey, fuck you.
And then he fucking, like, when they say, like, when he basically says, like, Sam gives the marching orders of, like, hey, we're going to have to come out the gate swinging, like, we're going to be done by 11, because by 11:30 the SEC is going to be in here and crawling up your ass. When he says, like, you're going to, like, he's like, well, what are we going to do? He's like, you're going to have to pay. He's like, obviously. Like, he says, like, there are, what, like, 35 traders on the floor? That's $2 million per trader, basically, if they make their marks. Yeah. So he's willing to throw up, like,
I mean,
basically $100 million.
I think they said they were calling in like 60 people that day.
Yeah, so that means that's $120 million between these. So like like you're basically throwing out $200 million to fucking destroy the market. Mm-hmm. And I mean that went on till like 2013. Yeah. From 2008 to 2013.
Lost $150 million on that one trade we heard about. Yeah.
By the way,
I mean it's big scary numbers.
That section 2 is really fascinating. Like, the way that is cut, I've always been fascinated by that moment. Like, it shouldn't work and feels like a cop-out almost, because you want to see, like, them sweating in the bullpens. And yet, those calls are so like, because you just hear it get progressively worse.
Well, it's haunting in a couple ways, right? Is one, you hear these disembodied voices, which lets you know there are other places with other scumbags who are also betting on this.
It's not just this one
They
place.
know that this company's selling everything off, but they're like, maybe I'll gamble someone's retirement on this. Also, there is a cold, unstoppable inevitability of this machine.
Yeah.
And so the fact that they are so unfrantic by the end just adds this massive amount of dread. Mm-hmm. You know, it's when you're like, well, I can't escape Freddy. I have to turn around and look him in the eyes.
Yeah.
And it's just a nightmare that, like, I don't know that we've ever fully woken up from, man. And it's that dread that's sitting in it, that morass. Every character being so fucking resigned to just like, well, we got caught, it's over. Yeah. And what's over when the movie's over is not these characters' story, but all of our lives were fucking upended and disrupted by this fucking massive event, man. And they capture I think that the stillness and the slow speed really lets the feelings of it, the remembrance of it sink in, even though we don't have a lot of information. I have to ask you, what the fuck is going on in this final scene?
I'm so glad you brought this
I literally don't understand this as the last scene for this movie.
I actually think this is the weakest part of the movie. And the fact that it ends this way...
Because it's his ex-wife's house?
Yeah, it kind of always bothers me. Like, it really does not work, in my opinion. And, like, it's sort of just this, like...
Because he's not burying the dog, right?
No, he's burying the dog.
He is burying the dog.
Yeah, he's burying the dog.
If I had, like, done something else, there'd be at least a couple more holes in the earth to show for it.
Yeah, no,
Why is he burying his dog at his ex-wife's house?
Why
does she not seem upset that there's a dead dog in her front yard?
This is one of those things that either is lost because of editing or just maybe like it's just it's just like a director choice of like, oh,
the director thinks that we might possibly feel an ounce of empathy for Kevin Spacey. Even before real life Kevin Spacey?
Again, it's just like, it's not something that's ever made sense to me of how it ends, because like she goes out there and he asks like, oh, how did our son do? And like, she's like, oh, well, they survived. Like, they're not bankrupt, but they got hit pretty hard. You're like, okay, cool. Why do I give a shit about what's going on here? Like, that movie should end at the bell after the last call that
after
Emerson
Jeremy
makes.
Irons like, you can go.
Yeah.
That's it.
That should be it. Like,
It's
that should be the end of the movie.
ending. Yeah.
It is a really, I've
Unless
never
Kevin
understood
Spacey buries himself in that hole, that ending is pretty fucking lost on me.
Well, it just doesn't make sense. Like, it's not, I think the problem is it's for a movie that's done such a good job making something that's otherwise kind of not compelling at all on screen, pretty compelling.
Yeah.
It's such a fart of an ending. You're like, who cares? Like, I don't give a shit that this rich guy went home to a house he doesn't own anymore and buried his dog.
Oh, no. He's going to have 2 more years of salary and his giant fucking golden parachute.
Oh, no. But he had to bury his dog. Boo-hoo.
I mean, I feel bad for the dog.
I feel bad for the dog.
The dog was probably like fucking
but it's also this,
other
like,
dogs out of their treats and shit.
I think the other thing, too, is like it's this B plot that gets addressed at the top of the movie that doesn't really play throughout the movie until like
there is like a weird. So was that dog in his trunk the whole?
Yeah,
like what the fuck?
Like
it's
it just
so
doesn't.
Weird.
It just doesn't make sense to me. Like, it's never made sense to me, and I've watched this movie countless times. It just
feels
does not
almost
track.
disqualifying for any award it got for writing to me. Like, it's such a weird. It almost like made me mad.
I don't know. It should. Like, I'll be honest with you. I usually stop watching. Point. I usually stop watching the movie after that Jeremy Irons scene because I'm just like, I don't give a shit what happens with this guy at the end of the movie.
It's
like,
so weird. Like, I've tried all day to like crunch that in my mind and get anything out of it. Unless it's just to show us that, hey, he's gonna go back out in the world and pretend he's one of us, and really he's Michael Myers. He's any fucking slasher villain.
If you want to attach any sort of emotion to it, I guess. Like, the one thing I would say maybe would work, and again, this is a real fucking stretch, but it is sort of this metaphor for like, there's nothing you can do about it, so now you have to just bury it. Like, you've done the damage. The damage has been done. It's over with. So now you now have to bury it yourself. Like, it's the financial, you've ruined the market. So now you go home and you have to bury it beneath and like move on. I don't know. Like, it's the weakest metaphor I can come up with, but like, honestly, like, it's never made sense to me from like a storytelling perspective, from an editing perspective. Like, it's never really tracked as an ending because we never see, like, if it had come up 2 more times in the movie or even 1 more time, I maybe would have bought it, but it really just, it's just like a shitty B plot shoved into the background of a guy who like spends the entire movie trying to do this Mr. Smith Goes to Washington routine and then goes, I need the money. Like, it just doesn't
Mr.
work.
Smith gets his fucking axe and murders us all in the back. That's all right. Shitty ending aside, this was a really compelling movie for how static it often is.
Yes.
It really captures that ominous,
it's just dread
vibe. Yeah, and I was really impressed with that. So that's it for Margin Call. We still have more gifts, Daddy. Don't punish us, please. Please, Daddy, still more gifts.
Careful. You'll end up in Spacey's dungeon.
Dear God. My safe word would be, kill me. All right. Fuck that guy, man.
Fuck him. Fuck him to the end of the world.
Yeah, here we go. Patreon. Patreon.com/Film Alchemist Pod. Guys, we would appreciate some support. If you can, we would appreciate it. Even $1 a month is really helpful to us. So thank you in advance for those of you who are about to join. Thanks for all of you who already do. Email filmalchemistpod@gmail.com. The YouTube Film Alchemist. You can email the show at filmalchemistpod@gmail.com. It's late and my brain is melting. Make sure you leave ratings and reviews. That's it, man. We will be back to delight Dandy one last time before the October Mega Marathon, which by the time you hear this, you should be hearing lots of fun details about how to prepare for the infinite abyss. It's going to be fucking awesome this year. So stay tuned, guys. For the Film Alchemist, I'm Josh Griffey.
I'm Alex Dandino. Save your money, guys.